I'm just going to keep talking in case we are going live, because now YouTube doesn't even let you, like, say go live. It just throws you in at some point.
Right.
But whatever. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, hey, welcome everybody to another
Hello.
live recording of Guide to the Unknown.
Yes.
I'm William.
And I'm Kristen.
And we're going to be getting started in just a few minutes with episode 150.
Yeah.
150.
Yeah.
If you can believe it.
Looks like we made it.
I guess so. Kristen, I think this show might not be a fluke.
Mm-hmm.
It also might be. I mean, I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah, what do you want? Me
Right.
to commit?
What do you want?
What do you want? The hell do you want from me?
Hey, Drew. Hey, Miss Sweetie. I saw your news flash up real quick.
What's going on? Welcome.
Welcome.
I'm really excited. This is, we haven't done one of these in a while. We've done episodes in the past where we read stories from listeners.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say that it's been certainly months and months and months.
Yeah, I think that we did it either for like Christmas or New Year's, and that was the last time.
Yeah. But so it is time. Once again, it's come back around.
Yeah, you guys sent us some goodies.
And, yeah, oh, hello. Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Hello,
Michelle.
Andrea, Michelle.
KB, Dana, Brittany. Hi.
Hello. Welcome. Yeah, it's exciting. It's cool. I like it when we get to see what people's experiences have been with the paranormal and things like that.
Yeah. Hey, Luke. Hey,
hello.
Bobby.
Oh, hey, Bob. Yeah, so what's going on, everybody? Maybe we'll take a couple seconds here at the start just to make sure that people can get in and everything.
Absolutely.
I've already done all my sharing and posting. Mm-hmm. But now it's your turn, everybody. If you want to spread the word of Guide to the Unknown, if you know other people who might like this show, please let them know that we're live right now. Mm-hmm. Feel free to post, tweet, whatever.
Yeah. Then come hang out and watch.
Exactly.
And talk to you in the chat. What could be better?
What could be better?
I can't imagine. Nothing better.
There's nothing that could possibly be better.
Yeah.
Kristen's fully moved into her new house now?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is your old apartment completely empty?
It has some garbage bags in it that I have to move.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's not too bad.
It's just garbage. It's not my items.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You didn't, like, pack all your stuff into garbage bags.
Right. We had to throw out some garbage and wait for garbage day because we filled up all the cans. So, yeah, it's empty.
Wow.
Got to clean it up and then give over the keys and all good.
Did you do the like final episode of Friends thing of like you're about to leave and then you take one last look before you close the door?
Well, I didn't do the final episode of Friends thing, but I did the like early seasons Friends thing where I said, "Goodbye, Mr. Heckles. Try to keep it down."
Oh my God,
Then
that is brutal.
Yeah, I know.
The Mr. Heckles episode of Friends is rough.
I know.
It's
hard.
At my old apartment when we moved
Thank you, KB, and thanks, Michelle.
When we moved into this house, I pulled a Feeny. And I was the last one to leave my old apartment, and I looked back and I went, class dismissed.
Oh, my God. That's right.
Closed. It made less sense because I'm not a teacher.
Correct.
And my old apartment was not a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the thought that counts.
You did it nonetheless.
I did it anyway.
I wish I could remember it, but Ryan was telling me about in our new town or the new area, something had the name Spooky. The name was in it. It was like the Spooky Bridge golf course. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a golf course that has the name Spooky. Now that I remembered that as I was saying it, I'm going to look it up. I texted him before I left for today, and I was like, what was the spooky thing? And he couldn't remember.
It's like a desperate grab to get people like me to become golfers.
Yeah, I know. Spooky
join the Spooky Golf
course?
Club. It's like those lame cereals we talked about last year where they're like haunted Fruit Loops. It's like, all right. In what way is it haunted other than, you just put that name on it?
It's the Spooky Brook Public Golf Course.
Spooky Brook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Spooky Brook must be something then, right?
I guess it must be. I'll have to look into it.
There's a spot on Route 1 called the Whispering Woods. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered what's up with that. Like, Whispering Woods makes me think of ghosts.
It's an apartment complex. I used to drop off mail there.
For who?
Well, yeah, I would
what?
say when I was on my way home from my job, I used to have to mail things a lot.
Oh, okay.
And I needed to go to a blue box, and there was a convenient blue box in Whispering Woods for me to drop things off. I know that made me sound like a mail carrier.
Yeah, it made you sound like you're trying to be a Newman on the side. Picking up some light Newman work.
You could try to be worse people. and worse things.
I'm not saying anything against our humble mail workers.
No, or our humble Newman.
I'm just saying I know that you've never been one.
No, I
so
haven't.
for you to say I used to drop off mail there was weird.
I dropped off boho berry mail.
Yeah.
Hi, Lily. I'm glad you made it.
Hey, welcome.
Awesome. Is this giving you what you were looking for?
Is this what you were missing?
Yeah.
I
Hi,
think
Caitlin.
We're about to get started, everybody.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, thank you all so much. Episode 150,
Yeah.
which is very exciting.
Yeah.
And because it is episode 50, we've got a very
150.
special way of kicking this off. We're going to be hearing from someone who we might also hear from again in the near future.
That's right.
But yeah, everybody in the chat, please feel free to keep sharing this, get the word out there to other people, talk with each other. When we do the show, we tend not to look at the chat, but we'll check in at the end. And let's read from some scary stories.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun grab bag of all listener stories. So anybody who's interested in that thing, even if they don't know about Guides to the Unknown, will probably have a fun time watching this or listening to it later. So by all means, tell people who like that stuff to come check it out.
Yes, please do. And without any further ado, let's begin the show.
Darkness descends. As time turns a corner, you find yourself in a strange place you've never been before. You're going to need a guide to the unknown. Here are your guides, Kristen and Will.
Hello, welcome to Guides to the Unknown. I'm Kristen.
And I'm her little brother, William.
And that was Ghostface. Can you... Oh, wait, what?
Kind of.
Well-
it's the performer, Roger L. Jackson.
Yeah, but, if I said that was Roger L. Jackson, some people know what I'm talking about, but I want to get the people pumped.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a cameo from Roger L. Jackson, the voice of Ghostface.
That's right.
The voice behind the face.
And that's not even the whole thing. So
No.
you're going to be hearing more from him on the show.
That was actually a bit of riffing that he added into his cameo unprompted.
Yes, we gave him, I guess, maybe a script or some points to hit or something like that. And then he was like, you know what? Let me take another one if you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
And then did that just to be
It's
nice.
delightfully cosmic and odd.
Oh, my God. So thank you, Roger L. Jackson.
Thank you to the great Roger L. Jackson.
Yes, the voice of Ghostface from all the Scream movies.
Yeah, and Scream 5 has begun filming, so he might be quite busy right now if somebody else was trying to book him.
That's right. That cameo price might just have shot up.
That's true.
His stock has gone up.
That's right.
It was always up in our estimation,
His stock
of course.
will rise high.
Oh, God.
Just like ours here on episode 150 of Guide to the Unknown.
Yes.
150.
Right. It's a landmark episode, so we decided to use that for this one. And we also wanted to do something special in sharing listener stories for episode 150 because you guys are really what keeps the show going. We might make the show from this end, but we make it for you, and your feedback and enjoyment of it is what keeps us propelling through these episode numbers. So
Yeah.
I hope that you enjoy hearing from some of your spooky brethren
Yes.
about what they've experienced out in the real world.
We feed off of your stories like vampires. Now, we've done listener stories in the past, but it's been a little bit, and so we've been saving these up over the course of time.
Yeah, I mean, some of these are from December of 2019.
Yeah. And even to that point, please, if you've had a paranormal encounter or you know somebody who has, you can send that story to gttupod@gmail.com, and it might make its way into a future listener stories episode because we hold on to these things forever.
Yeah, that's right. So, William, would you like to kick us off?
I would love to. I'd be delighted to, Kristen. This first story comes to us from Christopher. My experience is a UFO sighting. It happened when I was about 11 or 12 years old, around 1988 or 89. It was late summer, and I was out on the neighborhood streets playing with my next-door neighbor. Street lights were starting to come on, which meant it was time to go home. Pause.
I know.
It went all blurry.
I know.
I'm gonna fix that.
Okay.
Just because since we're at the beginning and I caught it, I wonder if coming back from the video made that happen.
Yeah, maybe.
The
I was waiting
Now
for a
it's-
natural point
yeah,
to point
sorry.
it out. No, you took the natural point.
Apply.
It's looking
Okay.
better.
Yeah, I think the autofocus came on, which meant that it was
Okay.
trying stuff, which is annoying. All right,
Yeah.
anyway, so that's super early on. That was 10 minutes in. All right. We were running around gathering up our balsa wood airplanes that we were playing with when there was a weird light, a flash in the sky that caught our attention. Side note, the house that I grew up in as a kid was directly under the flight path for planes doing their final descent into Portland International Airport. I grew up absolutely fascinated with airplanes. I loved airplanes, and even as a young kid, I learned everything about them. I had planes flying right over my house all day and night, all year long. I was no stranger to the skies over my head. So when me and my buddy saw that flash of light, we said, "What the hell was that?" It was strange enough that it gave us pause, and then we saw the UFO. It was actually the most cliche UFO sighting you can imagine. It was a gray, disc-shaped object. It made a noise, bass, intense humming sound, and flew back and forth and back and forth and back and forth across the horizon with mind-numbing speed, just stopping and starting instantly. It was like it was going back and forth scanning something. Me and my buddy watched it for a minute, maybe two. It felt like a long time, but it was probably only a minute or two. Then, in a flash of light, it took off to the south and disappeared from view. We both ran back to our house screaming, "We just saw a flying saucer!" The next day, it was in the local paper. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know.
You could look that up then.
Right. On microfiche.
Yeah. Oh, do they still have that? Like,
I
we went
hope
to the
so.
library?
I would think for like the really, really old things, maybe they do. I bet it's not like out on the floor, but maybe if you ask,
They've got it in
to
like a
check out-
dusty closet.
maybe, which is
Yeah.
cool.
There were hundreds of sightings, and PDX Airport had no radar signature for any plane in the area at the time. I'm pretty sure it wasn't a visitor from Mars. Maybe it was a top secret late 80s version of a military drone or something. But I know that the UFO phenomenon is real. I've seen it with my own eyes. There's definitely a disc-shaped object around the skies that can perform maneuvers that no human pilot can. I've seen it. I'll vouch for it. It is absolutely real.
Very cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Christopher, excellent sighting.
Absolutely. It must have been so cool to see that in the newspaper the next day.
I
Like,
know.
oh, it wasn't just me. See, look, other people saw it.
Yeah, yeah. Because the one thing that would happen in the aftermath of something like that is everybody doubting it. Everybody
Right.
saying you must have just, you might be making it up.
Yeah. Or you read too much into something or read spooky stuff into something.
Or because you're a kid, it's
Yeah.
easy to dismiss your story or whatever. But to have it in the paper, that would stick with you for life.
Oh, yeah. It's so validating.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've talked about it on the show before, but I remember I saw a UFO on the 4th of July. Everybody thought it was probably fireworks, but I was like, no, it was a red UFO. It was definitely fireworks.
How old were you?
Like a kid. We were in Reading, Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you were
yeah.
just making something up for attention.
No, I don't even. I'm saying everybody said. I don't even remember telling people really. But no, I remember looking out my window and seeing this like red flashing, and I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And I was like looking through the trees at
Yeah.
it, and I was like, in my head, I was like, I know it's the 4th of July, so obviously it could be fireworks, but it's definitely not fireworks, and it was definitely fireworks.
Well, why are you saying now that it definitely was?
I guess the forethought of an adult looking back and saying it. Look, the simplest answer is that it was the 4th of July. You're seeing something red, like flashing and lighting up the sky. It was probably fireworks.
Somebody posted something in the group in the last couple of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say. And it was sort of a question of, is it possible that the government allows all of us to post conspiracy theories about UFOs and things so that we will discredit them amongst each other? When in actuality they are real. Because
Yeah.
we're all down here going like, no, you're nuts. No, you're nuts.
Right.
You didn't see anything. And I'm sort of into that notion. And it was actually a theory posited in the movie The Faculty.
Yeah, they'll never
Elijah-
believe it anyway.
Yeah, they'll never believe it anyway. So, feel free. Make movies about UFO sightings.
We really don't care.
Who cares? You're all going to be down here fighting over whether or not it's true, and it will allow us to keep doing whatever we're doing behind the scenes with studying UFOs or with our, super advanced military drone projects or whatever.
Right.
It's sort of a crackpot theory, but I do love the idea of let them theorize because then they'll be super divided on whether or not to believe it.
Yeah.
Don't confirm it because then it'll be confirmed.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's not totally impossible.
Yeah.
All right, so this next story comes from Abby, and we at Guides to the Unknown here want to say happy birthday.
Hey, happy birthday, Abby.
A few years ago, my husband and I decided to go on a trip for our 3rd anniversary. It was a no-brainer that we chose the place that saw the bloodiest day on American soil to be the spot we went to commemorate our undying love. We went to Gettysburg. My husband cheerfully agrees to all my spooky ideas because, I assume, that spoopy stuff is better than having to watch The Notebook every year. Fair enough. 1 second. Clear. I'm worried I said happy birthday to the wrong person.
Oh,
I
really?
want to check our email real quick.
That's funny. After every first paragraph of every story,
I know.
something goes wrong. While you do that, I'm just going to check in with everybody here and see if
No, we're good. We're good.
We're good?
Yep.
People seem to have liked that intro.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, there's going to be more of that next week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very excited for next week's.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Okay. He isn't a Pennsylvania native like I am, and had only been to Gettysburg once. I, on the other hand, can't count the times I've been there on that other hand. Using one hand to count on the other hand.
Gotcha, okay.
I'm thinking. In fact, as the creepy teenager who was always scribbling in her notebook, I had vowed to come back when I was an adult and have my own spoopy Gettysburg trip. So this was a dream come true. The first thing on my spooky Gettysburg bucket list was to stay at the Farnsworth House. It's reported to be the house where the Confederate sharpshooter was stationed when he shot and killed Jenny Wade, the only civilian casualty of the battle. The Farnsworth House is said to have the spirits of this soldier and a few more as well. There's said to be a little boy ghost, Jeremy, who was run over by a carriage in front of the house. Jeremy is said to be a trickster and will take pennies and dimes from the bedside tables.
That's what's been happening to my pennies and dimes?
Yeah, it's Jeremy.
Jeremy!
We got David messing with the tech. We got Jeremy stealing our pennies and dimes.
If you do that over the course of like a couple hundred years,
you could do pretty well for yourself. You could have a nice little afterlife.
Jeremy is loaded.
Mm-hmm. He is well off. We were there in late May, so it was still a little too early for the large vacation crowd and not time for the reenactor crowd, so it was interesting. Many of the tours weren't booked, and for many, we were the only ones in the group. Of course, me being me, wanted to go on back-to-back ghost tours. 2 out of the 3 were hilariously silly. Like I said, we're the only ones in the group. One was in the basement of the Farnsworth house, and I swear as the lady, who was oddly too cheerful, beckoned us into the basement, my husband made a "this is how we die" joke. The other was a walking tour with a brand spanking new guide. It was his first night, and we were his second tour. As we learned more about his acting career, he had a speaking role in Gods and Generals, although it was on the cutting room floor. It was the perfect spoopy night. But the reason I wanted to send in this story to you is that the last tour of the trip was by miles the creepiest ghost tour I ever went on. Unlike the other tours that featured a lantern-lit stroll down the main street, this one required us to be able to drive from location to location. And unlike the other tours, this one was more focused on ghost hunting than retelling scary stories. They boasted that they would take us as close to the battlefield as you can get without getting us arrested, and had ghost hunting equipment. It also boasted that it would take us to spots that they didn't have other ghost tours, which is one thing that the others didn't do. Hold on a second. It also boasted that it would take us to spots. Oh, okay. They would take them to spots where there won't be other ghost tours at them.
Oh, okay.
And that during other ghost tours, they ran into other groups.
So it's like
they were crisscrossing.
Exclusive tour spots.
Yeah, exactly. Our first spot took us to this wooded grove in another "this is how we die" moment. It was the woods between the National Cemetery and the high school football field. The Confederates had camped here according to the records and artifacts that were dug up. The spot was close enough to the action for the men to fall into line if they needed to for battle, but far enough from the fighting at the edge of the town to not worry about getting shot. The tour guide mentioned that historians had found unmarked graves around this spot and where the football fields ended up being. In fact, there were so many bodies after the battle that it took the town months upon months to clean up. The Union Army couldn't stay to help rebuild, and the Confederates had retreated, which left Gettysburg high and dry. It's terrifying to imagine these men and boys who died either instantly or very, very painfully just by staying where they fell until some townsperson, hopefully, came across their unidentified body and tossed it into an unmarked grave or a mass grave. And we were smack dab in the middle of it. The forest was getting dark, and by that time a storm was rolling in. So every once in a while we would get a flash of lightning and hear the roll of thunder. In another odd turn of In another odd turn of events, it also happened to be the graduation night for the local college students. This meant fireworks, which we couldn't see because we were in the woods, but we could hear them. I don't think we could have planned this in a million years and could never duplicate this experience. There in the dark woods with our ghost hunting equipment, the oncoming storm and the blast of the fireworks, it was the closest we could have gotten to knowing what it was like during the battle, short of actually being in it. As far as evidence went, it was all subjective, but I was given the ovulus, which spits out words that, in theory, the ghosts are trying to say. And I got the creepiest answer ever. As I walked further in, close to the cemetery line, the ovulus said out of nowhere, Oremus, which is Latin for let us pray or pray for me. Freaking out, I hand my husband the device and casually go to get another ghost hunting item. I turn the spirit box on, and there's only a moment of static before it says Oremus or Oramus or whatever. That's weird. They both said the
crazy.
Same thing. It's very strange.
Pray for me. It's like that's very sad.
Yes, it is, but it's also it's weird that those two devices said the same thing.
Oh, sure.
We hear the last booms of the fireworks show, followed by a bright streak of lightning and an instantaneous clap of thunder. The guide suggests that we go back to our cars a little early to beat the storm, only before the spirit box says, Oremus, a third time, and it begins to pour. And that is how we died. No, I'm kidding, but it was by far the scariest thing that has ever happened to me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is it the same person 3 times, or is it
right,
3
or
different
it's other
people
being like, Oremus, Oramus, Oramus, whatever it is.
It's like, it makes me think of that notion of everybody dies 2 deaths when you die and the last time somebody speaks your name. And so this is, well, I guess you can prolong that second death if you can call out to people from the beyond.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what an ovulus is, but now I want it.
So it's this thing, I think you've seen it before. They have it on Ghost Adventures where it's this like box that these words will come up on and they'll be like, oh my God, it says kill.
Oh, it was that? Okay, we got to get one
so.
of those then too.
Yes.
Complete our collection.
Yes. So it types out the words.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's fun. All right, this next story comes to us from Carrie. My family frequently visited Yosemite with another family who had a daughter my age, Emily. When we were about 12, we all visited the nearby ghost town of Bodie. It was a fairly boring, dusty town, but there were signs saying the town would put a curse upon anyone who removed an object from the premises.
Nice.
That's great.
I know, this is fun.
Very much like telling kids, like, if you act up, what you mambo's going to get you, right? Like, if you steal something from here, you're going to get cursed. Just leave everything alone.
Told us that when we were kids.
Yeah, it's true. Emily and I, of course, interpreted this as a dare, and when we found a screw on the ground, I put it in my pocket. We went back to our camp in Yosemite and didn't think much about it. Our brothers hiked up to Half Dome the next day, camping overnight along the way. When they returned a day later, they told us a bear had stolen their food in the night, terrifying them as it got to their food bag, tied in a tree, and sniffed around their camp. Wow, bad luck, we thought, but not too surprising since Yosemite bears are wily about getting food. That's horrifying in and of itself.
Yes, it is.
The concept of camping...
End story there.
Exactly.
Already scary.
It's the idea of camping and sleeping in the woods is very pleasant in theory, but if you suggest a bear is present, hell no.
Yeah, I like nature and everything, but I have no desire to camp.
The one time that I slept, like when we went to Iceland last year, Allie and I got a bubble hotel thing.
Right.
Which is a clear plastic bubble that you sleep in so you can see the trees around you and the stars in the sky. Beautiful. Couldn't sleep. Mm-hmm. I kept seeing people's lanterns like bobbing as they went to the bathroom because there are other bubble hotel rooms. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it. I probably would do it again.
Yeah.
But I had such a hard time sleeping at all. If you suggest there might be a bear nearby trying to burst my bubble.
As if.
No way.
No way. I would do that, or I would do like glamping, but just like putting up a tent.
Yeah.
Or some people like link this like a hammock thing between trees and sleep in that.
Yeah.
No way. So exposed.
No, it's not happening.
No.
That evening at dinner, Emily's mom started to choke on a piece of meat. I don't mean coughing or a quick episode. I mean honest to God, blue lips, can't make a noise, actual choking. And for what felt like a long time. Her husband performed the Heimlich maneuver over and over and finally saved her life. But we were all shaken up and decided to head home the next day, cutting our trip short. The next day, we packed up our camp and headed home, all of us in a big van with a small trailer for our gear. Emily's dad made the fateful decision to go down Old Priest Grade, which is the shorter but steeper way down the mountain. Partway down, the van's brakes gave out, and we careened some distance before somehow pulling off the road and coming to a stop in the gravel and underbrush. A terrifying experience. We got the van towed to an auto shop and checked into a campground to spend the night while we waited for repairs. By this time, Emily and I were freaking out, sure that this was all our fault. We walked to the edge of a canyon, tearfully apologized to the ghosts of Bodie, and threw the screw as far as we could. The next day, the van was fixed, and we made it home uneventfully. So, a bear getting into teenagers, probably improperly secured food, a choking incident, brakes going out on a heavily loaded vehicle going down a steep hill. Nothing too out of the ordinary, but nothing remotely like that had happened during any of our trips before or since, and all three happened during the few days that screw was in my pocket. We didn't tell our families about the screw for years, and it's something my brother jokingly yells at me about to this day. One thing's for sure, I'm never taking my kids to Bodie, because they've heard this story and would for sure take something.
I love this story. I think it's great. I absolutely would have been like Carrie with my friend crying and apologizing to the ghosts of Bodie while throwing the screw overboard.
Yes, I love it. There's a magical thinking quality to it of like, of course we ended up cursed because we took the screw. Also, it's a screw. Mm-hmm. It's just a little tiny thing.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's the rules were
Say,
stated.
it falls within the rules.
Yes. But like, I do love then the notion that you threw it away, so therefore nothing else bad happened.
Yep.
Not happenstance, law.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Carrie, and I'm not, Guide to the Unknown can't condone this.
Sure.
And Will Rogers won't take responsibility for it, but I think you've got to take your family there.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Well,
I think you've got to face the demon. And I think even if, like, your kid does take something, then you'll know. Right?
You'll know, but at what cost?
I don't know.
To court fate in this way, you're going to be a father man.
I know. Well, but that's why I'm saying Carrie do it, not me.
Yeah, well, no, this isn't good. No, Carrie, don't go there.
I told you, we don't condone it.
Yeah, but you still put it forth.
But isn't there a part of you that wants to know? This is why, by the way, this is why I would get eaten by the Blair Witch.
Yeah.
This is why I would, like, march into the Black Hills woods.
You wouldn't, because I'd grab you by the seat of the pants, and I would not let you.
It's just you gotta know, right? Oh, you gotta know.
No, you gotta think about it forever but live.
You might be so close to the answers. There might be a curse at old Bodie Farms or whatever it was called. Real quick sidebar on that. Yosemite is one of, from the group Mega 64, who I love, Sean Chatfield, loves Yosemite. Mm-hmm. One of his co-founders of that group is Rocco Bodie.
Yeah.
It's weird that there's like a Bodie at Yosemite.
That's true. It's
right?
phonetically the same.
Yeah.
It's different spelling, but yeah, that is a good coincidence.
Yeah.
I like it.
There you go.
All right, so now let's move on to 4 stories from our listener, Marianne. Number 1. My mom and I had to say goodbye to our 17-year-old kitty. For days, she had been meowing very loudly when she needed to go use the potty. Same. When we got home, we're the only ones home and in the kitchen when we both heard her sad meow. We started to get up to go to her, and then we realized she wasn't there, and we both started crying. We like to think she came back to say bye and tell us that she'll be okay.
Oh,
I know.
that's very sweet.
You know, I experienced a ghost cat once.
Did you?
Yes, I did. I was staying over at a family member's house, and I was sleeping there, and I woke up in the morning, and I thought I felt the soft, beautiful paws of my cat, Chloe, on the bed.
Right.
And then I woke up feeling, I was like, oh, no, I'm not at home. That wasn't Chloe, whatever. So I came out, and I told our relative about it, and just jokingly, I was like, yeah, I woke up, and I thought that I felt like Chloe walking on the bed. And she was like, well, this used to be a veterinary office. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was the ghost of a cat.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, I just remembered that 2-star review we got. Yeah, definitely.
Right, you believe it all.
I believe in everything.
We got a bad review about William being too skeptical.
That's true.
Yeah. 1 + 1 = 2. Cat ghost in veterinary hospital, or cat paws in veterinary hospital. Cat ghost.
Maybe it was the vet. They were pressing.
Oh, God.
They must press on cats in a vet's office, right?
You know the vet. He would never do that.
Depends on the vet.
No, that vet, a wonderful man.
Oh, now I know where you're talking
Yeah,
about.
come on.
Oh, this guy. He was a silver
Hell
fox.
of a guy. Hell of a guy.
Up at the crack of dawn when the rooster crow's jogging around, giving you a peek.
Yep, he given me.
It was our. I'll let you in on part of the
it's
inside
fine, it's
joke.
fine.
It was one of our grandfather's best friends. So
And he
it's
was like insanely fit into like his 90s or something like that. He would bike like 5 miles a day.
It was like Jack LaLanne.
He was like Jacqueline. He'd like ride his bike somewhere really far away and then come back with the bike, like holding it
Yeah,
for arm strength.
it was crazy.
It was crazy.
He-
That was the vet, and there's no way.
He
That guy
could
was
have
a
bench pressed me.
Yes, he definitely could have. We say that like every time we saw him. This guy was a piece of work.
He really was.
But no, he would not have been faking cat paws. That was a cat through and through.
Fair enough. Sure.
Okay, anyway, excuse me. Here's the second story from Marianne. I was working on a play and we were in dress rehearsal. I went to sit in the audience to watch in a smallish theater, probably somewhere in the middle with no one around me. I felt someone run their fingers through my hair. Honestly, it felt like that crack an egg on your head, let the yolk run down thing, which we talked about a few
Yeah.
episodes ago. I immediately sat up and said, no thank you, walked into the dressing room area to be by people. For a bit after, I felt like I had the pins and needles, a tingly feeling.
Ooh,
Very creepy.
that's super creepy.
I know.
This
With
is
no one around you.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. Don't touch me. Don't touch my hair.
No.
What is that spirit up to?
I know.
I-
Do you remember
What?
that? It's not spooky, kind of. I was taking aerial yoga class, that thing with like the hammocks that you go in.
Yeah.
And at one point we were doing something where our feet were like kind of out perpendicular, doesn't really matter. And I felt a tickle, tickle, tickle. And this lady had tickled my feet. So weird.
Is there a chance? I had a teacher. This is really weird. Okay, bear with me.
Okay.
I was a theater dork in high school.
Yeah.
I became friends with some of my old high school teachers. One of my teachers and I went to yoga together a few times, and she would reach out and tickle the bottoms of my feet. Possibly an inappropriate story.
Is it that teacher who I also had who
the
told me I
bottom
looked
era?
sickly? Is it that
No.
teacher? No.
No.
Okay.
No.
That happened. There was a friggin' psychology teacher who I was all buddy with.
Yeah,
She
no.
loved Will a few years later, and when she had me a few years previous, she came up to me. This is absolutely true. I was sitting in class minding my own business, and she goes, "Are you really that pale?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "You look sickly." And I was like, "Okay, thanks," because I was like
Thank
a
you.
goth. Like, or not a goth, but like I had like black hair.
Yeah.
I was like punky or whatever. So I guess maybe she thought that I was using like white makeup. I wasn't.
We had very different high school experiences.
Yeah, Will
you
was
and
like
me.
the king of high school, and I was like a not.
You were the jester,
So
the
crazy.
knave.
A psychology teacher
Ah,
says
it's
that
crazy.
to a kid. It was
Well,
nuts.
psychology. People who are fascinated by psychology require psychologists.
Yes.
I have a theater experience that was not paranormal at all. Again, theater kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, at this point, a lot of people considered me to be like a funny guy in school.
Say that again.
And so I was sitting in the seats in the theater. It was probably like between auditions for something. And I felt something just touch the side of my face. Almost like when you pick up a phone, the way like from my ear to my chin, just like something cupping the side of my face. And that happened on the other side too before I had time to react. And I looked back and there was a girl who had taken her shoes off and she cupped either side of my
kind of
face
remember that.
with her sock feet.
Oh
And
my
I just,
God.
ew, I like jumped up and I went, ew, what are you doing? Don't put your feet on my face. And she clearly had misjudged.
Yeah, like
We weren't friends. Like, I think she thought like, well, Will's funny, so this will be funny. And it was not the reaction she was hoping for. So I sort of felt bad, but also don't put your feet on my face,
brutal.
especially strangers.
Yeah.
Don't put your feet on my face.
Oh my
It
god.
was-
And
it was
strangers
rough.
don't tickle my feet.
Leave our, no feet stuff with
Leave them
strangers.
be. I know it's with the Rogers family.
Don't need it.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so story number 3 from Marianne. I was in a vintage shop one evening with my mom. It was in one of the older buildings in town. There were only 3 of us, including the woman who owned it. Mom was at checkout and I was looking at something on a table nearby. Suddenly, a dish flew off the table and crashed far away from me. I was on the opposite side, so I know I didn't knock it over, and how it flew was just a tip and fall directly thrown. The owner just looked at us and said, "They do that sometimes."
Ooh.
Just a fact of life working here at the vintage shop.
Just got to live with it.
Oh, my God.
That's crazy.
Absolutely.
But when you get to the point where you're like, don't worry about it.
Right.
At destruction.
So commonplace.
Oh, horrible. Call the Ghostbusters.
Definitely. Number 4, last story. My mom got slapped on the forehead one night when she was a teenager. She shared a back pool house with her sister. She was laying there not asleep yet, but eyes closed, when suddenly she's hit on the forehead. She sat up and looked at her sister, who was across the room and fast asleep. Wouldn't have been enough time for her to fly back into her bed, having slapped her.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Why? It's hard to even imagine the circumstance.
I know, the
for
feeling
that.
I know.
Just clapped on the forehead.
Yeah.
Do you think this is where my mind goes? Rage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't help but think about the rules as set forth in the movie Ghost, where Bucky Ding Dong teaches Patrick Swayze how to scoot pennies in the subway.
Right.
And he says, like, you have to focus all your energy even to, like, make the penny move like an inch. So it takes the point is, it takes a ton of emotion and a ton of energy to even do something slight.
Yeah, so to do a slap, something with force behind it that would wake somebody up, has to be a ton of energy.
It makes me think of, like, the jackal from 13 Ghosts. Like a rageful...
Just a rage machine.
A rage machine.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
scary. Yeah.
I know. So before we move on to our next story that Will is going to tell us, we just want to tell you a little bit about Guide to the Unknown.
Yeah.
So you can find our show everywhere that podcasts can be found. You can also find us on youtube.com/talkbomb if you'd like to watch the video version. And if you want even more and you'd like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/GTTUpod. If you join at the Netherworld Warrior level, which is $4 or more per month, you get a bonus episode of the show every month on the 13th. Plus, you can join us for a live stream on the first Sunday of every month where we plan out the next month of shows. So you'll know everything that's coming and you can suggest things to us and kind of be part of it in a different way.
Yeah, it's super fun. I love being able to talk back to people who watch or listen to this show. And there's so much Guide to the Unknown out there. If this is your first time checking out the show, please consider subscribing and spreading the word. Those are great ways to help make sure that people know about Guide to the Unknown and we can continue to grow.
Yeah.
Links to all of these things, by the way, Patreon, a Facebook group, everywhere, Guide to the Unknown, can be found at gttupod.com.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, so this next story was sent to us by Madison, and it's a pick your poison, which I think is very fun.
I know.
So
I picked both poisons.
I know you did, but which should I just do both?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's do both. So this first one is called the Sassy Ghost, which is amazing. Okay. Sassy Ghost. I can't wait. I hear the phrase Sassy Ghost.
It's a little, to spoil it a little bit, it's a little more that Madison was sassy with a ghost.
Okay, interesting. Well, here we go. One night last year, my fiance was out of town, and I was luxuriating in a queen-sized bed all to myself when I sat straight up, as if I'd been awake for hours. Not like I woke up. I was suddenly awake. I looked towards my bedroom door to see my trusty cat, Eloise, back arched and hissing, staring at my window. She's a jerk, but she's never hissed at thin air before. Mostly that's reserved for our poor vet. So I quickly looked around my room only to see both sets of curtains blowing parallel to the ground. No AC, no windows open, no reason for them to be doing that. I'm a graduate teaching assistant, I'm a graduate teaching assistant, and the semester had just ended the day before, so I was more pissed off that my sleep was being interrupted than scared. I said out loud to whatever was there in my most frustrated teacher voice, "Listen, we are not doing this." The curtains returned to normal, and the weird buzz in the air subsided. I saged the apartment, annoyed just in case, and so far, haven't had a problem since.
She sassed the ghost and it backed down.
That is the right move.
Yeah.
You need to know your rights. You can refuse to be haunted.
Yes, you can Miranda. Yeah, you basically Mirandize them. I wasn't as sassy, but I did that to some weird stuff in a hotel room in New Orleans, and nothing happened afterward. Remember you know what, I'm saying to you to remember, I barely remember it. Ryan and I got into this hotel room and the radio kept turning on and off.
Yeah.
And then I said, Ghost, it's okay if you're in here. That's totally fine, but please stop doing that because it's scaring me, and please just don't do anything to scare me. And nothing happened for the rest of the time.
I think we did a podcast about that.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it was a bonus episode of Old Book Club Schmuck Club.
Oh, maybe.
I bet we could look back through Book Club Schmuck Club and pick the spooky stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we could pick spooky books, but I don't know if moments like that we'd just know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I found out that you can use this refuse to be haunted trick in other places as well. I was at a haunted house attraction with our nephew, and he was walking ahead of me, and we talked about our experience at Universal Horror Nights recently, where it's like you couldn't handle it. I was overloaded.
Yes.
It's what it was in the haunted house. I knew that we were supposed to follow this path that turns to the right, so I looked to the left. So I was like, I know something's gonna sneak up on me. And there was a girl. There was a girl to the left wearing like a creepy like nightie, getting ready to creep up on me, and I went, no. And I just put my finger out, no. And I saw her. She must have been like a teenager. I saw her shoulder just kind of slump like, oh, man.
Oh, I was going to scare you.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, great. This is the move. This is the move. So it sounds to me like you made the exact right move, Madison.
Yeah.
Stand your ground.
Opt out.
Refuse. No, thank you. I will unsubscribe from the ghost. And here's story 2 from Madison, La Chupacabra. So my mom is from the middle of nowhere in Central Florida. Orange groves everywhere near a lake, not even a stoplight kind of place. Once when I was 11 or 12, we were driving down the dirt road to visit my grandma, and this thing ran in front of our car. It was twilight with the headlights on. We saw it so clearly. It looked like a dog, long, skinny snout, except it was walking upright, and it didn't have fur. Instead, it had hair, more like a goat, but patchy, like it had mange. Once it got over the shock of the headlights, it dropped down on all fours and ran off into the grove. My mom, a badass who used to swim with alligators and doesn't seem to understand fear, slammed the car into park and started to get out of the car to chase it. I convinced her not to, so we just drove on. Almost 20 years later, she's still annoyed we didn't go find it, and I'm still pretty steadfastly happy I didn't die by cryptid.
So your mom is with Will. She would be running with William into the Black Hills Forest, where I am like you, Madison, and I'm fine living with the mystery because I get to live.
I guess I'm torn, right? Because if I saw the monster, then I saw the monster.
Right.
If I chase the monster, it might eat me and think I'm a goat.
I'm a goat.
Well, it's called the goat sucker.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to get drained of my blood.
No.
But like in the case of Carrie's experience taking the screw,
right,
that's more ambiguous.
Yes.
There's more to be explored there. This is, no, you saw a monster. Get out of there, right?
Yeah.
I think you made the right move.
Oh, I do too. I absolutely do.
That's wild. I love that it had hair instead of fur. Like, I've got such a strong mental image of this
thing. Yeah, it was a really good description.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from Brandon. I witnessed this when I was in Victoria, BC, the capital of the province I reside in, during my grade 7 school field trip. Me and a couple of friends were checking out the Rogers Chocolate Shop, which is one of the many haunted places in Victoria, BC. It is rumored to be haunted by the founders of Rogers Chocolate, Charles and Leah Rogers.
We got to contact them and pretend to be long-lost relatives. Can I have some chocolate?
Give me some chocolate.
Oh, hey, Uncle Charles.
Family chocolate.
You don't remember me, do you? Long time no see.
Anyway, we came into the store for samples and for some air conditioning. It was really hot that day with no breeze at all. And I decided to wait outside while everyone else bought some delicious chocolates. He didn't say delicious. I was leaning against the brick wall that was bathed in the sunlight, and I felt a sudden cold spot for a few seconds, far away from the door to the shop, so there was no chance that there was a draft of air coming from the store itself. I was nowhere near air conditioning. I was pretty creeped out and fascinated that I had had a paranormal experience.
Yeah, I guess
Very fun, especially at
fun.
like a 7th grade field trip.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's already so fun to be like doing school things, but you're not in school.
Yeah.
It feels really weird. It's like a liminal space kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then to feel like, you know, you get to go to like a haunted chocolate shop and then you feel a cold spot
Well,
there.
it's also weird because it didn't come from nowhere.
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
He was bathed in sunlight.
Yeah, exactly. Something occurred. Something changed the atmosphere around me for just a moment.
Yeah, very, very cool.
That's fun.
It had to be so fun.
Yeah. And this is from Isadora. In the Bloody Mary episode, Kristen mentions how she thought there was a Latin American version of the legend, and there surely is. But besides that, the blonde in the bathroom is also very reminiscent of the Japanese legend of Hanako-san. We've talked about Hanako-san.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. The Brazilian name for this urban legend is, and I'm going to butcher this and I apologize, a Loira de Banheiro. That was what?
Like Banheiro?
You could just clip that out of me
'Cause
saying that
Banyo,
and
right? Like,
really
so-
rip me apart. It translates into the blonde in the bathroom. I would like to talk about my personal experience with this haunting and how much it impacted my childhood. This legend is basically about a beautiful blonde young woman who is known to appear in the girls' bathroom at schools, covered in bruises and wounds, with cotton stuffing her ears and nostrils. In every version, the story always includes a summoning ritual that often differs in its execution. Once a kid had performed the ritual in the girls' bathroom, it would be haunted by this sinister entity. When I was in elementary school, the most common ritual consisted of the following steps. 1. Get a strand of brown hair, a strand of red hair, and a strand of blonde hair. Done. I have got all that in my beard.
Yeah.
With the lights off, flush the strands down the toilet in the last stall of the girls' bathroom. Remember to press the button 3 times. And for each one, say a different swear word. I don't know that many. After all that is done, the blonde in the bathroom has now been summoned. Okay, it's like a cheat code again. We just covered rituals, and it's like,
Right.
if you do this in this right sequence, boom,
Yeah.
ghost.
You got it.
Yeah. It was uncertain what the blonde would do to those who saw her. The stakes ranged from a simple scare to her killing you by knocking your head against the sink, making you slip on the floor and fall, or drowning you in the toilet. Quite possibly one of the worst places to drown.
Yes.
6-year-old me and my friends were absolutely terrified and wouldn't dare to go into the bathroom by ourselves. My school had a rule which didn't allow more than one student from the same class to leave for the bathroom at the same time, so my friends and I would only go on the breaks or after class was over. The problem was that the place would be so crowded around that time. Either way, I refused to go to the toilet by myself, even if it meant spending the whole day without using it. It came so far to the point that several accidents happened, not only to me, but to several other girls, some of them who wouldn't go to the school bathroom at all, not even with their friends. Besides that, kids would be late for classes because they were waiting on the bathroom line. Some girls even broke out crying, and they demanded to go to the restroom by themselves. It was complete chaos. Things escalated so much that parents started complaining, and the teachers had to do something about it. My teacher decided to take the whole class to the girls' bathroom and perform the ritual I mentioned to prove that no blonde woman would show up. I remember the day very vividly.
That's amazing.
The absolute primal fear that I was only able to experience as a child. It's honestly bizarre to think about what a simple urban legend can turn into. After the teacher performed the ritual and we all collectively realized there was no real danger, the situation got a lot better. But it took me quite a few years to let go of the idea that the bathroom could be a terrifying place.
I know. The whole thing was interesting, but the payoff is really the teacher taking the kids in the bathroom. It'd be really funny if the teacher chose like the worst swear words.
I know. Yeah, the teacher had to use the swear words, right? In front of the kids. That was probably super fun.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'm glad that it worked.
Also for kids, maybe he was like, well, kids think anything's a swear. So what if the teacher's like dropping the hairs and he's like, fart?
Crab apple.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But I'm glad it
Broke
turned
you of the
out
fear. Yeah.
well, but
Risky.
it's risky. I feel like I would still be like, maybe the ghost just isn't appearing. Now I know, now I know for a fact the ritual's been completed.
Right.
You know,
now it's just a matter of time.
I saw Mr. Henderson do it.
Yeah.
Now the ghost is definitely in there waiting. Maybe it doesn't happen instantaneously. It takes time for the ghost to summon.
Maybe they just like told the kids that it happens instantly or something to put their minds at ease.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is from Sarah. My family and I were on summer vacation to Switzerland, and our flight out was in Florence, Italy, so we took a train. These trains, and this is important, have one long cabin per class, with the exception of bathrooms, which had to have the doors open when they weren't in use. The doors had a lock on them so that nobody could get out until someone who works on the train opens it from the outside. The weird thing about this train ride was that, despite there being many people going to Florence that particular day, the train car was pretty much empty. There was me, my parents, and my grandmother, along with another lady who looked to be about 50 or 60 years old. When we got on, this woman had brought on 2 suitcases and a handbag, which she placed on the bottom luggage rack. We got to Florence, and our train car was at the very back, so we had to get out last. The woman stands up and goes near the door, presumably to get off faster. We do the same thing about a minute later. Now, the people who work on the train hadn't gotten to us yet, so there was no way out. But when I looked around, the cabin is empty, the bathrooms are open and vacant, and the woman and both of her suitcases are gone. A few minutes later, the train person comes around and opens the door. I asked my parents, and they said that we were the only ones in the cabin. That still freaks me out. I still get chills whenever I think about her.
Wow. There's like an elegance to that story.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Like traveling by train,
I know.
first of all, has just this kind of like cachet to it. And then there was this like kind of stately lady with a bunch of luggage traveling by herself. Awesome.
Yeah.
Goals, as they say, who disappeared.
Yeah, and I guess is the definition of a ghost that's like locked in a loop, right?
Right. It was, oh God, what the hell's the name for that? It doesn't
Repeating.
matter. It's something like that.
Yeah, but like rather than being, a ghost that has a consciousness and awareness, who's trying to do stuff and has motives.
Right. No, you're just acting out the same scene from your life over and over.
Yeah. That's really spooky. That's very fun.
Yeah, simple but effective.
All right, this next story comes to us from JD. I grew up in the suburbs of St. Louis. The city I lived in was appropriately called Wildwood.
Will and I lived in Wildwood.
We lived in Wildwood from 1997 to 2000.
Yeah.
I saw
weird.
I saw this story come into our inbox, and I was like, really?
Yeah, like JD has reached out to us on Twitter about St. Louis a little bit because we mentioned it, and he asked me, it was kind of like a classic thing if you lived in this area, there were kind of like 2 dueling high schools, and he was like, I'm going to ask you a very St. Louis thing. Which high school did you go to? And I was like, I went to Lafayette. And he went to a private school. But I didn't realize it didn't come up, that we lived in the exact same town.
Yeah.
So weird.
The last school I went to there was called Crestview. It was like a middle school.
Yeah.
My wife and I actually almost 3 years ago, I think, she had to do a business trip in Chicago. And after that, we then drove down to Missouri because I've always wanted to go back. And we just drove past the old house. That was all we had time to do. But that place to me is almost like, it's hard for me to imagine it still exists.
I know.
It's such a weird, isolated part of our childhood. But yeah, all right, so JD's story. Aside from the insane synchronicity of all of this, back to JD's story. The city I lived in was appropriately called Wildwood. My big neighborhood was the only one for miles and miles, and many of the houses backed up to acres and acres of undeveloped woods. As a 13 to 14-year-old kid, this was paradise. My neighborhood friends and I spent hours exploring everywhere we could. We got to know the woods very well and had our favorite little creeks and cliffs that we visited frequently. One day, as we were exploring, we suddenly came across a house. I'm not talking about a shack or a cabin. I mean a full-blown 2-story house in the absolute middle of nowhere. I remember being excited. How cool was this? The 4 of us approached it, and the door was ajar. We looked into the kitchen, and it looked like a tornado had gone through. There were cups and plates and utensils everywhere. Old cans of food were in the cabinets and on the counters. We went inside. We were young and dumb and didn't think anything about it. We looked through the kitchen, opening drawers and cabinets. We explored the empty rooms and even went upstairs. After a little bit of exploring, we found the door to the basement. It was pitch black down there. Absolutely no light switch. We all dared each other to go down, but none of us would. I started to get some bad vibes, so we decided to leave and head down to the creek. When we were leaving, we saw an absolutely gigantic black snake and ended up deciding to head home. Now, this encounter was creepy on its own, but the real creepiness is that we never found the house again. In years of exploring, we never came across it. We know those woods very well and never saw it again. And thinking back on it, there was no road to the house. No broken asphalt driveway, no gravel, not even a clearing in the trees that could have once been a road. It was just simply in the middle of the woods. The houses in our neighborhood were about 20 years old at the time, and this house seemed that age, if not a little older. I still have absolutely no idea what happened to this house. It's possible that we just missed it in all our explorations, but I highly doubt it. In the 15 plus years since then, the area has really grown up, and there are now actual neighborhoods in the same area where the house would have been. I still wonder if some developer found it and tore it down, or if something more supernatural was going on that day.
Very cool.
This story, for one thing, I'm very clearly picturing our neighborhood in Wildwood, Missouri, where all the houses were sort of like, fairly recent feeling structures, developments. And there were a lot of farms around us.
Yes.
So I'm imagining this house very clearly. I'm also imagining it to be Griggs' house, which is...
Yeah, that was what I was thinking.
The real life building where the Blair Witch Project shot Rustin Parr's house in the finale of the Blair Witch Project.
Right. And that's also kind of a moving target.
Yeah.
So it folds into the story nicely.
A house that's not always in the same place all the time. It's moving. It's 2 stories. Someone lives in there.
Right.
In the woods. I have a real fascination with old structures, or even just boarded up abandoned buildings. Someone's in them. I know I told you about this. Like, it was a while back. Whenever we went to the NJ Horror Con.
Yep.
And I think we were driving past a gas station that was like abandoned, and
I don't know what that was.
I don't know what it was.
But I know what you're talking about.
And I was like, someone's in there, right? Like,
yeah.
Someone just considers that to be a place to get away from the elements and squat in there. There's someone in there.
Right.
It is so... The appeal of going into a house that the door is ajar and you think there's no one around, especially for a kid, is overwhelming. You have to. You absolutely have to.
Yeah.
However, that is so risky and scary.
Yeah, totally.
And I love that you never found it again. JD, you didn't find it again for a reason.
That's right.
See,
absolutely.
I love that. You escaped from a modern, real-life Rustin Parr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Dynamite.
Very cool. Okay, this story comes to us from Megan. Any story I have before the age of 10 is hearsay from what I've been told by my family. I used to hear voices a lot, apparently since I was about 3 or 4. But before that, odd stuff used to happen in our first home, and the funny thing is, it was a brand new house. When I was an infant, my parents would hear noises like soft voices or singing coming from the baby monitor at night. They would also hear this ball that I had that would play music when you rolled it across the floor. We didn't have pets. Sometimes in the morning, the side of my crib would be down or pictures would be off the wall. As I got older, around 3 or 4, I would go to my parents at night to complain and tell them the little girls won't let me sleep. I was never scared, just really annoyed. It was never anything malicious, just playful. It wasn't until I was a teen that my mom told me she had a lot of miscarriages before she finally was able to have me and my brother. Most of them happened in the newly built house, so maybe it was them. Also, company never stayed for more than a night or 2 at the house, and the complaint was usually the same thing: the sounds of toys or kids playing at night. The first ghost I can remember, I was about 10, living in a different house, and I was woken from a dead sleep. It sounded like I had a phone under my pillow or on the dresser across the room, and I heard a muffled, definitely teenage girl's voice saying, "Hello? Please pick up. Hello? Are you there? Hello? Please pick up." The words were crystal clear but had that distinctive phone voice. I was wide awake as this went on for a minute or two. I had a cousin who was about 6 years older than me living with us at the time, and at first I thought that it was her in the bathroom across from my room on the phone until it became apparent no one was answering the phone. The girl's voice was starting to get annoyed and getting that impatient, bratty teenage tone with the annoyed scoff at the end. That was the night that I realized I was chicken. I remember being close to tears. I was so scared and trying my best not to move or breathe because obviously nothing can possibly find you if you don't move or breathe. Second time was in the same house. I was talking to my mom in the living room, then suddenly stopped, went to the kitchen, picked up the phone and asked, "Hello?" because I could hear a man on the other end saying, "Hello?" and getting angry. My mom gave me the weirdest look and asked what I was doing. I told her I was answering the phone because the man was getting angry. I had thought she had been on the phone with someone and put it down when I walked in to tell her something, and she just forgot about it. She didn't hear anything. Another time I was spring cleaning my bathroom, the one I had thought my cousin was in the first time, and my room was right across the hall, like not even 8 feet away. I heard someone at my window saying, "Hey, come here, what are you doing?" I actually answered as I turned around and walked to my window, thinking it was someone working outside. No one was outside and my window was closed. I wouldn't have heard anyone, even if there had been someone. By 12 or 13, I worked at a vet's office and we had one of my dogs there in the back to remove a fatty lump. I was talking to my dog and heard this really loud, angry man behind me yell at me, "What do you think you're doing?" It was weird because I knew the owner, the only man there, and I'd never heard him ever get annoyed, let alone raise his voice. I thought maybe they had a new vet or assistant who had just gotten to work and saw this random kid in the back. I started to explain that it was my dog and I would get back to cleaning, but there was no one behind me. In fact, the owner wasn't even there that day. Just me, my mom, and the female vet, both of whom were doing surgery on the complete opposite end of the building, at least 3 doors away. I remember telling my dad about it over the years, and he would just brush it off as coincidence or outside noise. Until it happened at his place. It was a small 2-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor, so yeah, sounds did carry. I was reading a book on the couch, TVs were off, no radios, nothing was on, no traffic, absolutely silent. I heard a little kid's voice coming from the room I share with my brother across the room from me saying, "Megan, come play with me. Megan, please, come play with me," in that really whiny little kid voice. I got annoyed and said, "I'm reading," and that's when I heard my brother's laugh from my dad's room behind me. Then I realized that the voice was of a 5 or 6-year-old and my brother was 10 or 11. I immediately ran to my dad's room asking if they heard any radio, TV, or kids outside. Both looked at me like I was nuts and said no, so I told Dad exactly what I heard. Crystal clear sentences, tone, inflection, everything. Dad went kind of white and had this puzzled look that said, "Okay, that's creepy." I don't really remember many more than that. Those were just the few that really stuck with me because it was more than just a whisper or a word or a name. By the time I was 14 or 15 and we moved to our final house, they stopped. Haven't heard anything to this day, or at least not that I'm aware of. Sometimes I kind of miss them.
Wow. That is alarming.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, and that is very... It's interesting that it was all voices. Mm-hmm. All
yeah,
of
you're
them,
right. You're
all
right.
of them voices.
Yes, all of them voices. Well, there was some playing with toys early on.
That's true. Yeah, the sound
but I mean
of
a lot of
toys.
voices. A voice heavy.
Right.
Yeah.
Relatives who stayed over heard the toys.
Right. Right.
She
and laughing.
primarily and laughing. Okay, fair enough. I was trying to think because like it's very interesting to only hear these like this array of voices.
Right.
The idea of being in trouble, of a spirit or whatever, or even
Yelling at you?
Yeah, yelling at you is really alarming.
It's scary enough when anybody who's not your like main authority figure in your home is yelling at you. So for it to be not just that, but somebody who isn't even there when you turn around, terrifying.
Yeah. So and you feel like you have to explain yourself or something. That is very scary.
I know.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Here's a story from Haley. The story I want to share, while not clearly paranormal, is still creepy to me, and, in my opinion, more entertaining. In August 2015, I was pregnant with my second child and having the standard weird, vivid pregnancy dreams. Allie's having those now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Super intense and really weird.
I have really, really vivid, weird dreams because of my antidepressant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't have any of that.
I have side effects.
Oh, really? I'm not sure that I do.
That's great.
They're great, Chris.
What?
Try having no side effects.
Yeah, I would like that.
Yeah.
I sweat like a monster.
Oh, I sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have vivid dreams and nightmares, but I'm not miserable during the day.
Well, here's the thing.
So.
Maybe I do have vivid dreams. I do have weird dreams. I do have a lot of nightmares.
Have you always?
No.
Okay, so this might be.
Maybe. I guess I just take it for granted. I don't know. On this particular occasion, I dreamed I was on some sort of outing with my mom, dad, brother, and sister. I remember thinking to my dream self that it was strange that my husband and 5-year-old weren't with us also, but as one often does in dreams, I just rolled with it. We were exploring some kind of farm. I found myself poking around a barn with my mom, examining the old farm equipment. Then my mom produced an old, creepy-looking baby doll, explaining that we had to care for it like a real baby, or else the doll would hurt someone. Oh, no! Everyone in the family was taking turns caring for the doll, and now it was my turn. I rolled my eyes because this seemed ridiculous, but Mom seemed to be in earnest. So I took the doll and a sippy cup she handed me and went through the motions of feeding it. After putting the cup to the doll's mouth, I could hear sucking and swallowing noises like it was drinking. God, no! But looking down, the doll's mouth was motionless. Maybe it was one of those dolls with a sensor that made drinking noises when it sensed the cup in its mouth. But when I pulled the sippy cup away, the nozzle, which had been in like new condition a moment ago, was chewed to bits. In shock, I glanced at the doll's face, which then animated and grinned horribly at me, bearing a mouth full of fang-like teeth. Just then, Mom returned and said we were all moving on to a field outside, but to bring the doll along. Make sure you watch it closely, she urged, or else it'll stab someone. This is a true nightmare.
Yeah.
This is true like nightmare logic.
Absolutely.
At that point, I woke up. I took a few minutes to shake off the creepy feeling while the vividness faded, and then went on with my day. Pregnancy hormones, am I right? A couple months went by, and I had pretty much forgotten the dream. That October, my parents planned a last-minute weekend trip to visit an orchard and a historic mansion. This isn't good. This is just going to meet the doll. This isn't good news. They visit an orchard and a historic mansion in southern Indiana, and they invited my siblings, me, and my husband and son to join them. My husband decided not to join so he could have a boys' weekend with our son. But I tagged along with my parents and brother and sister. So I found myself on a farm with the exact group of people from my creepy dream in the spookiest month of the year, and this realization dawned on me while we were chatting over lunch at the orchard. I shared my dream about the doll with them. We all laughed at how bizarre it was and professed our relief that we didn't have a creepy old baby doll there with us. Later that afternoon, we left the orchard and took a tour of nearby Culbertson Mansion. In one room was a Victorian era baby doll that our tour guide began to tell the group about. She was quite advanced in her time, this doll. One of the first models to have the weighted eyes that open and close based on whether she was upright or lying down. And such care went into her design that she was fashioned with a full set of teeth. Q exchanged meaningful glances amongst all my family members at this tidbit. Then the tour guide regaled us with the ways they incorporated the doll into their yearly murder mystery dinner event. She made quite the impression this year, our guide gushed. We had her posed holding a knife like she was about to stab someone. I'm sure we confused our other tour group members and our guide a great deal when my family members and I all lost our minds and our cool at this revelation. It had all gotten to be a little too parallel for comfort, and we spent the next few minutes of the tour wide-eyed and whispering our disbelief at each other. So, was it paranormal? I don't think it could ever be proved so, but the synchronicity seemed uncanny to me. I'm just glad the real-life doll didn't jump to life and decide to show us her mouthful of carefully crafted teeth like she did in my dream. Yeah, I'm glad too. That is straight up bonkers.
I know.
That is a crazy, crazy story.
I know. It's so good.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. You dreamed it and it came true. Maybe it came true because you dreamed it.
Right.
I don't know.
Could have been like a tulpa situation. Does that work for haunted dolls?
I guess so.
I don't see why not.
I don't know. Why did they need that baby doll to have a mouthful of teeth? What did they need it for?
Fun.
We gotta have the teeth.
For fun.
Send it back. Tell them to add more teeth.
More teeth.
Nah, not enough. Keep adding them until I say done.
Full set of champers. Our next story comes to us from Grace. The summer I turned 8, 1989, my family, mom, dad, and younger sister who had just turned 6, moved from the northern Great Plains region to Pennsylvania. 2 weeks before Christmas, my baby sister was born. I and my 2 sisters shared a small bedroom. One night, a few months after baby sis was born, I woke to her crying. The bunk bed my other sister and I shared was in one corner against the door leading to the kitchen, under the wide 50-style bunker window, and the baby's crib was across from it along the wall shared by the bathroom. I had been asleep in the top bunk. The bedroom door was open, and the lamp on the secretary desk just around the corner in the living room was on. The 3-way bulb was turned to the brightest setting, which meant that most of the room looked black except for the bright doorway. The brightness of the light was unusual. Someone usually turned it down to the dimmest setting before bed. The bright light also meant that the woman who walked in was merely a silhouette.
Oh, no. Treating it like a fact immediately.
I know.
The woman who walked in? It's like, just take for granted that happened? No.
Her long, dark hair fell past her waist, and as she walked up the middle of the room to the crib, I could see she was wearing a long nightgown that just brushed the floor. She picked up my baby sister, carried her over to the rocking chair situated against the wall, hidden in the shadow cast by the open bedroom door. She rocked my baby sister until she stopped crying, then stood, gently placed the baby back into the crib, and left. I heard the rocking chair creak faintly and heard the baby, but I don't remember hearing anything else. None of the usually creaky floorboards creaked anywhere in the house. No bedroom doors opened or closed. There was just silence. There wasn't even a noisy furnace to kick on. We had a wood-burning furnace, and it simply hummed softly when the fan switched on. The house was perfectly still. I stared at the empty, illuminated doorway until I drifted back to sleep, watching and listening. My mother had short, dark, curly hair. My grandmother had short, light, curly hair. Both typically wore satin pants and button-up nightshirts or knee-length nightgowns to bed, though my mother did own at least one nightgown. However, it was mid-shin length and had a ruffled trim. I was trying to make that woman be someone in the house, but the only person I could think of who looked even remotely like her was an estranged aunt who certainly wouldn't be there wearing night clothes. Jeans and leather jackets are more her style back then. Atta girl. The next morning, I asked both my mother and grandmother if either of them had come in and rocked the baby to sleep in the middle of the night. Both of them denied even hearing her cry. Dad said the same. I asked him because maybe I'd just seen it wrong, though my father is a fairly big man. Nearly 6 feet tall, muscular, and even then, when he was young and skinny, he was fairly broad-shouldered. Many years later as adults, the 3 of us girls sat around recounting all the weird stuff we'd experienced growing up, and my younger, middle sister confirmed that she too had seen the strange lady come in and rock our baby sister to sleep on one or maybe even more occasions. It freaked her out, so she never said anything to anyone. She also said that a few years later, she and a friend were camping in the backyard, and a woman with long, dark hair and too many rings on her fingers tried to get into their tent in the middle of the night. She did not come into the tent, though, just fumbled with the zipper around for a moment and then left. The 2 girls, both around 8 or 9, waited until they were sure she was gone before bolting into the house and sleeping the rest of the night in the living room.
Real quick.
Yeah.
When were zippers invented? We can start to pin down when this ghost is from, right?
Yeah, that's true. She was living in a pre-zipper world.
Can't handle zip tech.
Yeah. That's the kind of ghost you want.
It's true.
Yeah.
But, like, that's scary, but also, like, the idea of anything trying to get into your tent, first of all. The flap of canvas or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that flip sound of, like, nylon. Like, just don't touch my tent.
I know. Don't touch my tent.
Don't touch my tent, bro. But also, like, the ghost can't handle a zipper. Doesn't know what it is.
Right.
Good. Who knows what he would have seen?
Absolutely. Thank God it wasn't a snap closure.
We should-
Or, God forbid, a button.
It's sure, God forbid, a button.
Probably the oldest technology for closures.
Maybe it was a pilgrim. Could have been a buckle. Now, we should keep inventing more and more ways of fastening
Yeah,
so that we are protected against ghosts in the post-zipper era.
you're right.
Right?
This is good. Put a pin in it.
Okay.
They could probably get through a pin. Sound like Bill Clinton. They could probably get through a pin.
get through a pin. A ghost came in through my pinhole.
The baby, our youngest sister, also said she'd seen a woman with long dark hair around the house while growing up and thought maybe she was a guardian angel or something. None of our other family members fit that description even a little, not even deceased relatives. All three of us are very sure of what we saw. We just aren't sure who or what she was. Oh, and lastly, our grandfather built that house himself. It's not as though we inherited some ghost from a previous occupancy or something. My grandmother, now 90 years old, still lives in that house. It's always been strange there. Each one of us girls has a small stack of weird tales from our childhood. Creepy, unexplainable experiences that send chills down our spines and had us running for the light, closing the curtains, hiding under the covers, or locking all the doors and checking the windows. The long-haired lady, all capitalized like that,
I love that.
is the one I, ever the skeptic, find the most compelling because all three of us girls have seen her independently and have our own unique stories. These days, though, the chairs in the kitchen don't move on their own, and whatever was up with the barn seems to have gone away, or at least gone quiet. Though sometimes when I'm there at night, I swear I can smell Granddad's midnight bananas and bread cereal and hear him wheezing softly in the living room as if he's walking back to his bedroom after a late night kitchen raid.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
sweet. That's very sweet.
Yeah.
The long-haired
The
lady.
long-haired lady.
We've all seen the long-haired lady.
Yep.
She seems, benevolent, I guess, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, she's helping babies get to sleep.
Yeah, I do love the sound of that for sure. That's also a very sort of elegant story. That
Yeah.
is very Haunting of Hill House.
Yes, definitely.
New trailer for Haunting of Bly Manor just came out.
Oh, like a second one?
Yeah, a more full trailer today.
Excellent.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that.
I do too.
All right, let's check this one out from Finn. When I was about 12, my family took a trip to Werribee Mansion. I love a mansion.
Love a mansion.
Love a mansion. The 60-room building and grounds was built in 1877 for the Churnside family, who emigrated from Scotland to make heaps of money producing wool. It was converted into a seminary in the 1920s, and as such, it's had additional wings constructed since. On this hot summer afternoon, I wandered off down the halls, half-heartedly reading plaques along the way, until I found myself alone at the end of one of the wings where a display of creepily angular mannequins was set up to illustrate the daily life of the priests who lived there, including a man in full garb sitting at an old typewriter. I was bored and 12, so I said aloud, "That's a weird-looking mannequin." Immediately, the mannequin cracked its neck to look at me without eyes, snapped its jaw to speak at me with no mouth. I watched the typewriter click twice without being touched. 15 seconds later, at the other end of the wing, I crashed into my uncle coming around the corner. "Dude, are you okay?" He looked at me, alarmed, as I caught my breath. I wanted to fill him in, but it seemed inexplicable. Later that night, I put off sleep and did some Google sleuthing on Werribee Mansion. As it turns out, it has a tragic history that gives it a reputation for the paranormal. Thomas Churnside was in love with Mary Begbie, his cousin, but don't think too hard on that.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? It was whenever it was.
Yeah.
But her parents would not approve of the marriage. She's her cousin, Thomas Churnside. They use his full name, his parents.
Yes.
After moving to Werribee, Thomas sent his brother Andrew back to Scotland to marry Mary in his stead. What?
Wait, if it's his brother, that's still his cousin.
I guess the issue they took wasn't the cousin,
Huh, okay.
Right.
All right.
the cousin
Yeah.
of it all.
Yeah, right.
Fine, if I can't marry my cousin, then you do it, bro.
Right.
So she could move in with them in Thomas's mansion. But Thomas became depressed, and in 1887 he was tragically found dead in the laundry with a shotgun beside him. 3 years later, his brother Andrew died too. Finally, in 1908, Mary Churnside died from burns caused by a fire from her bedside candle. Could it be their ghosts I saw? I've heard it told that spirits often get lost in new additions to a building, unfamiliar with their surroundings. This wing had been added for the seminary after their deaths. I wondered what the letters on the typewriter might mean, but it seemed like gibberish. Unless... I looked up the standard typewriter layout, finding something different to our current QWERTY keyboard, which meant the keys that clicked were actually MC, Mary Churnside. Could the priest mannequin be trying to point me to the tragic Churnside family story? Perhaps. Is it likely that I was just delirious from a hot summer day? An argument could be made. But I have to believe this story was demanding to be told. By sharing it with you, I hope it can be.
Well, Finn,
that was
told.
Great.
It has been.
I love the idea of a mannequin cracking around to look at
Oh my
you.
God.
Yeah. It's
Yowie.
It's also, it's not structurally sound, Kristen. It's not structurally sound.
No, not at all.
I wonder if it suffered like damage from cracking its neck around.
Maybe, but it was like, it's worth it. I have to get through the fin.
Yeah. Who's been damaging this mannequin?
Yeah.
No. They've been moving on their own.
Yeah, it's fine. All right, so this is our final story, and it comes from Katie. My name is Katie, and my family and I reside in Maine. Shout out to my wonderful husband, Matt, and our sons, Declan and Rowan.
What? Whoa.
My dad was in the Navy for 20 years, so my family lived on military bases which are believed to be chock full of ghostly encounters. These particular experiences occurred around 2005 in Georgia when I was a young teen. One night after my parents had gone to bed, I was watching TV in the living room with just the glowing light of the screen. I had gone to the kitchen for a snack, atta girl, and came back to notice red and green lights shining in the sliding glass door leading to our backyard, like those laser pointers people use to torment cats. There were maybe 4 or 5 of each color. At first, I thought that maybe they were reflections from the desktop computer nearby, but the whole computer was turned off. The lights began to make a swirling, circling motion around each other, almost doing figure eights. I couldn't hear or see anything, just the dark void of the backyard and these mysterious lights dancing around. They continued for a while as I stared at them. I got freaked out and retreated to my room to get my mind off of the peculiar situation, but it was almost as if the lights were enticing me to go towards them and outside. I kept feeling that pull. They were almost beckoning me to follow. Luckily, I was able to break that eerie, unnerving trance, and I got the courage a few minutes later to go peek at the glass doors. The lights were inexplicably gone. I tried to brush the whole incident off and just went to bed. The next morning, I woke up and had briefly forgotten about the weird occurrence. I heard my mom on the phone in the kitchen, and I swore I heard her say the words, "There was an alien walking through the backyard last night." I was completely puzzled, and the events from the night before came flooding back into my mind. I got out of bed and went into the kitchen to find my mom at the table reading a magazine, and I asked her who she was talking to on the phone and what she was talking about. She said she hadn't been on the phone at all. She'd been quietly reading her magazine for the past few minutes. Within the same base housing apartment, as well as the surrounding area, strange things happened. I was constantly hearing noises coming from the rest of the house, even though I knew my parents were in bed. Dishes in the sink, the faucet turning on and off, etc. I also once saw either a ghost or a shadow person walk past the end of the hall in full view of me as I was laying in bed peering down the hall. But the scariest thing I witnessed happened outside the 4 walls of my house. I'd been over at a friend's house for most of the evening before deciding to sleep over, so she and I wandered from her cul-de-sac to mine to get my overnight bag. By this time it was dark and the streetlights were casting our shadows onto the grass along the sidewalk. Something caught my eye. I looked down to my left and saw a third shadow of a person walking behind us.
Ooh.
I quickly turned around and no one was there. Every time I looked back, the mysterious third shadow was there. I got my friend's attention and showed her. She saw it too, which freaked me out more, and we took off running the rest of the way. We decided to have a sleepover at my house that night instead of going back to hers. The last, most memorable story I'll share also occurred outside on that very same sidewalk. Only I wasn't the one walking along it. I was sitting out front of the apartment building we lived at, just enjoying the warm night air. The streetlights were on by this time as it had been dark for a few hours. All of a sudden, movement caught my attention. I saw a person, it seemed like the build of a young man, but I'm not entirely sure, very slowly walking down the sidewalk. This person, quote unquote, walked into view past my building and continued ahead and away from me. It seemed as though he were dressed in all black. But the most distinct detail I remember is that he had a black hooded sweatshirt on with the hood pulled up as he kept his head down. I thought for a second that it was maybe someone I knew, so I called out that friend's name. This hooded person abruptly stopped in their tracks, still looking down. This startled me a bit, but I was not prepared for what would happen next. He very slowly turned his hooded head around to look directly at me. I still could not make out any features of his face, just a black void where his face should be. I was frozen and felt as though I couldn't move my body in any way. He stared for what seemed like minutes, but could have been seconds. Then he slowly turned his head back forward, still looking down at the ground, and slowly walked again. As he walked under each street light, they flickered and went out. One by one, they went out and continued as far as I could see up the sidewalk as he walked. I then lost sight of this person, and it was as if I blinked and all the streetlights had miraculously turned back on. I looked up the sidewalk as it was lit now and saw no sign of the hooded figure, and to this day, I never figured out who or what that was. I still occasionally think about it.
Wow.
So there is that phenomenon where some people turn off streetlights.
What?
Yes, it's a thing, because even reading this, I'm like, oh, I bet a bunch of people are going to put like stuff about this in the Guide to the Unknown Facebook group if we don't acknowledge it, or you still can with us acknowledging it. I don't know a lot about it. It's some weird phenomenon where I don't know if your body has more electromagnetic activity to it or something, but there are some people who, when they're walking around streetlights, they either turn off or on.
No way.
It's a real thing. Yeah.
That's actually real?
Yeah.
Sometimes bathroom faucets don't react to my hand. They're like motion active. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I think that's everybody, though.
Well, that's definitely paranormal, though, right?
Yeah, it's definitely paranormal.
Definitely. Suspiciously long.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, there was that season of Fargo where Carrie Coon had that happen. Like, no sort of motion-activated things worked for her. She would always walk up to a door and it wouldn't open, so she'd be like, hey! Like, nothing worked. And they never fully explained it. It was just some sort of, like, Fargo weirdness.
Yeah. I've never heard of the streetlight thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Never.
Mm-hmm.
I do certainly love the notion of calling out to somebody who's walking around and they just stop.
Yeah.
Turn and look at you.
Right.
It's just eerie.
Yeah.
Just eeriness on top of eeriness, that story. That was really fun.
Yeah.
It was really wild.
Absolutely. This is a really fun episode. Thank you guys
Super fun.
so much for sending all these in and sharing them with us and then letting us share them with everybody else. I responded to these and somebody wrote back and said, like, thanks for giving us an outlet to share these things. Like, I don't necessarily want to talk about them with my coworkers. And I'm happy that we were able to do that and then, share them with your community.
That's very interesting. Yeah, it never even occurred to me that these might be things that people otherwise wouldn't want to talk about.
Right.
It's so funny because especially here between us, we actively chase encounters, which might be why we're not having them.
Yeah.
But like we did the SB7 spirit box
thirsty.
thing, right? Like we tried to use a spirit box to contact the spirit world.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to plug the episode for it because that's not really what I mean. I'm just like, we've actively...
Well, let's tell them so it's not annoying. It's our most recent Patreon episode where we did the Estes method.
There you go. But so we've like tried to get our own paranormal stories like the ones we just read. And I said this a million years ago, and I still think it might be true because I'm a celebratory skeptic. I think these things only happen when you're not looking for them.
Well, I mean, we're just repeating things we talked about before, but there is an idea, and I think I even mentioned the word earlier, that like these experiences happen in the liminal spaces in life. And so those liminal spaces are when you're not really looking.
Yeah, and every single one of those stories was not about somebody who was willingly putting themselves in a situation. You know what I mean? It was happenstance. It were things they came across.
Right.
Yeah, they happened to you, and arguably you didn't want them to.
Right.
Fascinating. Thank you all so much for sharing them with us.
Thank you. Super
allowing
super
us to
cool.
read them on the show. For this, our very special 150th episode.
Thank you guys for hanging with us this long.
Thank you
We've had
very
a
much.
really good time hanging with you.
Yeah, it's really, really nice seeing that there are people out there that are willing to share stories with us and enjoy this show at all. So please, once again, if you are one of those people, thank you so much for spending your time with us here on Guide to the Unknown. Please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, or just spreading the word however you will. We greatly appreciate it. If you are brand new to Guide to the Unknown, please consider subscribing. On Apple Podcasts and all major podcast apps, we release a new audio show every Friday. You can also subscribe to youtube.com/talkbomb, where you can watch us record these shows live every Wednesday night. And there's a Facebook group where other listeners and viewers talk back to us and to each other, posting links of spooky things from around the world, or just, I don't know, sharing what they're up to right now. So you can join that. And of course, as Kristen just mentioned before, patreon.com/GTTUpod if you'd like to give back and get more. There's even more Guide to the Unknown living on Patreon for you. All of these links can be found on GTTUpod.com. You can even talk to Kristen and myself online.
That's right. I'm at Chillin' Kristen.
And I am at The Myth Traveler. So thank you all again, one last time this week, and we will see you again next week for more spooky happenings in our neck of the woods. But until that time comes, we must travel.
Back to the netherworld go we.
A concludo.
Concludo. I guess our spooky things won't be from our neck of the woods next week, though. It's going to be from the wider world of horror.
It's true. Yeah. That's right. We're going to get very, very horrific starting next week.
That's right. So tune in.
Yeah. For those of you that were in our Patreon planning session for September, we forgot that the final week we were planning for is the first week of October.
Right. So we're doing a little juggling.
Next week, we're going to start a little mini-series for the month of October, named by one of our constant listeners, Mary Rose.
I was thinking Mary Rose named something else for us, too.
Is that right?
Yes. I don't remember what it was. It was like an episode title or something.
Huh.
But Mary Rose is a namester.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great name.
Yes.
It's also a name that doesn't necessarily make much sense.
Doesn't matter.
Slashtober.
I think that was the case for whatever the other name that they came up with was.
It's
It
not
was
a
like
rhyme
goofy.
or anything.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
remember what it was, but I remember I really liked it.
Dynamite.
So
Slashtober begins next week.
you Patreon peeps already know, and you other guys will find out very soon.
Yeah, we're bumping the last topic we had previously planned on to November. Slashtober must begin.
That's right.
But there you go, everybody. That was the end of that week's episode of Guide to the Unknown.
Yeah.
Listener stories.
Yeah. Looks like people enjoyed it from the comments. I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, Megan says, I
Ooh,
love these
Claire
stories.
is
They help me
falling
feel
asleep.
less crazy.
Great.
That's great.
Great. Yours was very good, Megan. Thank you.
Uh,
Also, Karen, hi. I'm glad that you can just kind of like snuggle up and relax. This was a good like bedtime story one.
I
So
know.
for Karen and for Claire, maybe it's kind of nice that we can like take you on to Sleepy Town.
yeah, it's like a different mode, a different flavor, right? They are so much more sort of like stories that a family member would tell you or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how weird.
Cool.
How weird, everybody.
How weird. How bizarre.
Also, how weird that JD lives or lived in a town we lived in.
Crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
I
Did
know.
you respond with that in the email?
No, you know what? Because like we got all these emails and I kind of like skimmed stuff and then wrote back saying like, hey, I got your thing just so you know.
Yeah.
It'll be in the Listener Stories episode this week or at some point. So I didn't catch it until I was compiling these for the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
JD lived right by Crestview. Probably knew some of the people I went to school with.
So
It's
weird.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Absolutely bizarre. I have, I think, zero contact with anybody from Missouri.
I'm
when we lived
Facebook
there.
friends with a couple people, but
Yeah.
we don't like talk or anything.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'm about to turn 34. Mm-hmm. I wonder, is it possible, JD? Are we around the same age? It's very strange. Very, very strange.
Andrew said, Kristen, the story about the screw. Good thing you put that white rock back among all the brown.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Wait. What was that?
James is almost 32, so he's a little bit younger.
Oh, okay.
That was, I think I talked about it on Guides to the Unknown, or it could have been Book Club Schmook Club. I'm not totally sure. But when I lived in my apartment where all the crazy things happened,
Yeah.
remember I was taking a walk with Crumbs, and I saw this white rock in the middle. It was just brown leaves and brown dirt, and there's just white rock right in the center. And I was drawn to this white rock, William, and all of our listeners. And so I took that white rock and I picked it up and I brought it in my apartment. I cleaned it off and I thought to myself, I don't feel right with this rock in my apartment. I should put it back. And I put it back in the same spot.
Well, that was a close one.
So good thing. Who knows? Actually, now that I think about it, with the crazy things that happened in that apartment, maybe I did the wrong thing. Maybe I was supposed to keep that rock. And then there wouldn't have been a peeping Tom, multiple break-ins, how do I say this delicately? body parts left in the parking lot right outside my apartment. I had all manner of trouble there.
All manner, full spectrum of trouble.
Yeah. So maybe I was supposed to keep that rock, actually, Andrea.
Well, we covered in the Somerset County episode last week that if you see white lights, they are benevolent. Maybe the white rock was benevolent and could have kept danger at bay. You blew it.
That's right. I did blow it. Crap.
You blew it. JD wants to know if Cameo ever accepted your application.
I think they're
still considering it.
Yeah, they're gonna get back to me.
They're still thinking about it.
They're thinking about it. They're mulling it over. That's another thing on Patreon that we did. Will and I had just kind of like a drive around talking episode, and we talked about Cameo, and then I applied for Cameo, and they're probably still noodling it over.
They're probably trying to consider how much they can
I'm about
charge.
to say, I bet it's a pricing issue. They're like, how much can we get away with?
It always is, because they take their pound of flesh.
Oh, they take.
They're
their
probably
pound of flesh,
thinking
all right.
triple, quadruple digits.
Right.
Can we get for this turkey?
Right, exactly. So I'll let you guys know when.
JD wants to get a Martha Washington cameo.
Oh, I can give you one right now. Hold on, I have bangs right now, so I can kind of do it. I'm Martha Washington. Actually, Bethany just texted me too.
Just as cool as.
It'd be weird if Bethany's
always.
text was about. No, it's not about Martha Washington. Okay.
You think she just texted you about that Martha Washington
No,
joke?
but it would just be funny if like she happened to have brought it up just now or something.
Oh, hey, just to give you an ego boost again. Let me remind you, it was really funny when you made that joke a while back.
It would just be a coinky dink.
I'm Martha Washington.
I'm Martha Washington.
So stupid. I have bangs, right? I have bangs, Greg. Could you milk me?
Yeah, right. I suppose. Oh my
I
God.
have a gentle little tuft.
That just looks like a hairstyle, like a cool guy would do, like a
Yeah,
flip back.
It does look like a hairstyle a cool guy would do.
Yeah, sure does.
Oh, look, now I look like I'm in an emo band.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have so much hair in front that I can sweep over my eyes.
God.
It's barely holding on.
Looks like a tornado.
Looks like I could yank it off. Not good at all.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It does the job.
All right, everybody.
All right.
Super fun. Thanks again. Hope
I'm
you had a
right
good
back
time.
to my actual friend Bethany.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right,
Okay.
Kristen. There's nothing on her phone. I saw it. She didn't have any notifications.
I did.
I saw it. All right, everyone. Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bethany Watson. Sorry, popped in the live stream and knew the zipper info, but can't remember my Google password to log into the chat. Bye. She was saying the zipper was invented in 1851.
What?
I glanced at my phone while we were recording,
What
and
is-
I saw that Bethany had simply texted me the date 1851 with a gif of a zipper, and I was like, all right, I'll have to address this later. I'm not sure what that's about.
That's amazing.
And yes.
All right. Proof. Kristen has a friend.
I do.
All right, everyone. Have a
right,
good
bye,
night.
guys.
Catch you later.